It's 2 a.m. You're lying awake, replaying that one awkward thing you said in a meeting earlier. Your mind is just racing with 1,000 different what-ifs about tomorrow. It feels like you're a prisoner in your own head, and you've completely forgotten where the exit is. If this sounds like you, then you're in the right place. We're not just going to talk about stopping overthinking, we're going to get into why your brain gets stuck in these loops in the first place, and I'm going to give you the keys to finally let yourself out. That feeling of being trapped, of your own mind turning against you, it's exhausting. It's like a mental treadmill that's always running, draining your energy, stealing your peace, and making you second-guess every single decision you make. This is what psychologists call analysis paralysis, where the sheer volume of your own thoughts keeps you from moving forward. And hey, you are far from alone in this. Research shows that a huge number of us are caught in this cycle, with some studies indicating that nearly 3/4 of young adults feel like they are chronic overthinkers. It feels like you're trying to solve a puzzle, but the pieces just keep changing shape. You replay conversations, dissecting every single word, every pause, searching for hidden meanings that probably aren't even there. You catastrophize about the future, building these elaborate nightmare scenarios out of a single tiny worry. This isn't just a bad habit, it's a pattern that can have real consequences. All that overthinking is linked to anxiety, depression, and chronic stress, which can mess with everything from your sleep to your relationships. And you might tell yourself that all this worry is somehow productive, that it shows you care, or that you're just preparing for the worst. But the truth is, it usually just traps you in a state of fear and stops you from actually living your life. The good news, overthinking is not a life sentence. It's not some unchangeable part of who you are. It's a mental pattern, and like any pattern, it can be understood, interrupted, and completely reshaped. The secret isn't to somehow silence your mind or stop thinking. That's impossible. The secret is to change your relationship with your thoughts. It's about learning the incredible, liberating power of letting go. So first we'll explore the science of why our brains get so stuck. Then, I'm going to give you 6 practical science-backed steps you can start using today to break the cycle and get your mental space back. To fix a problem, you have to understand it. And when it comes to overthinking, the problem is really a set of well-meaning but totally outdated survival tools in your brain. Let's look at the psychological reasons you get trapped in these thought loops. First, let's talk about your brain's ancient security system. A key part of this system is the amygdala, which is basically your emotional command center. Think of your amygdala as a super-sensitive smoke detector. Its one job is to scan for threats, physical, social, you name it, and sound the alarm. For our ancestors, this was a literal lifesaver. It's what made them jump when they heard a rustle in the bushes. The problem is, in our modern world, that same smoke detector gets triggered by things that won't actually kill us, like a critical email from the boss, a confusing text message, or the fear of saying the wrong thing at a party. When the amygdala gets going, it floods your system with stress hormones, putting you on high alert and making it almost impossible to think calmly. Overthinking is just your brain trying to protect you by analyzing every potential danger to death. This brings us to the default mode network, or DMN. This is a network in your brain that lights up whenever you're not focused on a specific task. It's what you use for daydreaming, self-reflection, and remembering things. And while that's great for creativity, for an overthinker, the DMN can become a trap. When it's overactive, it pulls you into endless loops of replaying past mistakes or worrying about the future. It basically becomes the brain's worry circuit, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets, until worrying is your brain's default state. The third big driver is a set of what psychologists call cognitive distortions, basically faulty or biased ways of thinking. One of the most common for overthinkers is catastrophizing. This is when your mind grabs a small negative thing and immediately jumps to the absolute worst-case scenario. You fail a test, and your mind doesn't just say, "I should study more." It says, "I'm going to fail this class, get kicked out of school, and my life is over." It's a total magnification of reality. Another distortion is black and white thinking, where everything is all or nothing. If you're not a complete success, then you must be a total failure. There's no in between. This is often fueled by perfectionism, which is less about having high standards and more about a deep fear of making mistakes. Perfectionists get stuck overthinking because they believe if they just analyze everything from every angle, they can control the outcome and avoid being judged. Of course, that's an illusion. Life is unpredictable, and trying to control everything just leads to burnout and anxiety. Finally, these patterns often come from past experiences. If you've been through something traumatic, your brain might develop a state of hypervigilance, always scanning for danger as a way to protect you. Overthinking becomes a misguided attempt to stop bad things from happening again. These roots, an overactive threat detector, a runaway default network, and learned patterns of distorted thinking create the perfect storm for overthinking. But just recognizing them is the first most powerful step, because now you know you're not broken. Your brain is just running an old program, and any program can be updated. Okay, now that you understand why your brain gets stuck on this treadmill, you might feel a little discouraged, like you're just wired to worry. But here's the most important thing to hear today. Understanding the why isn't about blame. It's about finding the levers you can pull to make a change. These brain patterns aren't set in stone. You have the power to create new ones, to quiet the noise, and to step off the treadmill for good. This isn't about a quick fix, but about learning skills that empower you to manage your mind instead of it managing you. So let's get practical. Here are 6 powerful steps to stop overthinking and start letting go. The first step is incredibly simple, but it's a game changer. When you find yourself caught in a worry spiral, just pause and label what's happening. But don't just label the thought, label the pattern. Instead of getting lost in, "What if my boss hated my presentation?" you take a mental step back and say to yourself, "That's catastrophizing," or "There's that perfectionism again." This works for a crucial reason. The act of labeling an emotional experience makes you use your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain. This helps calm down the amygdala, the emotional reactive part. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. You go from being a character swept up in the drama to being an audience member just watching the play. Don't judge the thought. Don't fight it. Just label it. This simple act creates a little bit of space between you and the thought. And in that space, you have a choice. You can see the thought not as a fact, but as a mental habit. The goal isn't to make the thoughts disappear forever. It's to see them for what they are, mental noise, and to take away their power to control you. This might sound weird, but one of the best ways to control worry is to give it its own appointment. It's a technique from cognitive behavioral therapy. Here's how it works. You set aside a specific limited time each day, say 15 minutes to do nothing but worry. This is your worry appointment. For the rest of the day, whenever a worry pops into your head, you don't engage with it, you don't analyze it or follow it down the rabbit hole. Instead, you just acknowledge it and tell yourself, "That's a good one. I'll think about that during my 6 p.m. worry time." Then you jot it down on a worry list and immediately go back to what you were doing. This does a few things. First, it breaks the cycle of constant worry. You're training your brain that there's a time and place for this, and it's not 24/7. Second, it gives you a sense of control. And third, you'll be surprised to find that when you actually sit down for your worry appointment and look at your list, many of the worries will have lost their sting. Some will seem silly, others will have already been resolved, and most just won't feel as urgent. It's a proven technique that can seriously reduce anxiety and even help you sleep better because you're not taking all your worries to bed with you. Overthinking happens entirely inside your mind, lost in a world of past regrets and future fears. One of the quickest ways to break that spell is to pull your attention into the physical world, right here, right now. The 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique is perfect for this. It's simple, you can do it anywhere, and it works by forcing your brain to focus on your senses. Here's how you do it. Wherever you are, Just stop and gently notice. 5 things you can see. Look around and name them. Your laptop, a cup, a shadow on the wall, the cover of a book, a crack in the ceiling. Really look at them. 4 things you can feel. Notice the physical sensations, the pressure of your feet on the floor, the texture of your shirt, the cool surface of your phone, the air on your skin. 3 things you can hear. Listen, the hum of your computer, the faint sound of traffic, the sound of your own breathing. 2 things you can smell. This one might take a little more focus. The faint scent of coffee, the smell of soap on your hands, the air outside. 1 thing you can taste. What's the taste in your mouth? Maybe it's leftover coffee, or you can just take a sip of water and focus on that sensation. By the time you get to 1, you've effectively hit a reset button. You've anchored yourself in the present moment, proving to your anxious mind that right here, right now, you are okay. You can't win a wrestling match with your thoughts. Fighting a negative thought just gives it more power. The goal isn't to fight it, but to reframe it by questioning whether it's actually true. This is a technique called cognitive restructuring. When a big overthinking thought takes hold, you become a gentle detective and ask it some questions. Let's say the thought is, I completely bombed that presentation. Everyone thinks I'm an idiot. Instead of just accepting it, you ask, 1. What's the evidence for this thought? Well, I stumbled over 1 slide, and that person in the back was on their phone. 2. What's the evidence against it? My boss said good job after my coworker said the data was interesting, and I answered all the questions at the end. 3. Am I thinking in black and white terms? Was it really a total bomb because of 1 stumble? Does everyone really think I'm an idiot? 4. What's a more balanced way to see this? I was nervous and made a small mistake, but overall I got the key points across. It wasn't perfect, but it was far from a disaster. 5. And even if the worst were true, could I handle it? If my boss did think it was bad, what would I do? I'd ask for feedback and do better next time. It would suck, but I'd survive. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's about realizing that your first automatic thought is often the most extreme one. By questioning it, you find the perspective you need to move on. When you're stuck in your head, one of the best things you can do is get into your body. Physical activity isn't just a distraction, it's a direct intervention. When you exercise, a brisk walk, a run, dancing in your kitchen, your brain releases endorphins, which are natural mood elevators. It also helps burn off the excess stress hormones, like cortisol, that fuel those anxious feelings. On top of that, movement that requires focus, like yoga or even just shooting some hoops, can get you into a state of flow. Flow is when you're completely absorbed in what you're doing and all that internal chatter just fades away. It's the polar opposite of overthinking. You can't be fully focused on your body and lost in worry at the same time. You don't need to run a marathon. Even 10 minutes of movement can be enough to break the loop. The next time you feel your thoughts closing in, just stand up, stretch, walk around the block, put on a song and dance. The rhythm of your body can break the rhythm of your anxious thoughts. Your mind can feel like a room crowded with screaming people. Trying to sort that out in your head is almost impossible. The solution: get it all out. A brain dump is where you write down every single thought, worry and fear onto a piece of paper. Set a timer for 10 minutes and just write. Don't worry about grammar or making sense. Don't censor anything. Write down the big fears, the small anxieties, the angry rants, everything. Let the paper hold the chaos so your mind doesn't have to. This works for a few reasons. First, the act of writing slows your racing thoughts down. Second, seeing your worries on a page often shows you how repetitive or silly they are. They lose their power when you see them in the light of day. Third, you gain perspective. You can look at them more objectively, see patterns, and figure out which are real problems you can solve versus hypothetical worries you can let go of. The brain dump clears the mental fog and puts you back in charge. Breaking free from overthinking isn't something that happens overnight. It's a practice. It's a skill you build, one moment at a time. Letting go doesn't mean you'll never worry again. It means that when the worry starts, you'll have an anchor. You will have the tools to label the pattern, schedule the worry, ground yourself in the present, reframe the story, move your body, and clear the clutter. Each time you use one of these strategies, you're doing more than just getting a little relief. You are actively rewiring your brain. You are weakening the old pathways of worry and carving out new, healthier pathways of awareness and presence. You are learning to trust that you can handle life's uncertainty without needing to control every little thing. The power of letting go is the power to reclaim your life from what if and start living in the peace of what is. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them, and that is where your freedom is. If this resonated with you, I think you'll get a lot out of my next video on building unbreakable self-confidence. It's the perfect next step. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it, and I'd love to know which one of these 6 steps are you going to try first. Let me know in the comments below.